go ahead and continue with item 7.3, consideration of upcoming courthouse facility projects. And Public Services Director Lars Ewing and Admin Staff Matthew Rothstein. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Oh, there we go. Yeah, I will. Good afternoon, Lars Ewing, Public Services Director. Matthew Rothstein as well is here, and Stephen Carter had a lot of involvement with this as well. So I was going to defer to him to speak, and unfortunately he's not here, but happy to present. The purpose of the presentation today really is not normal for projects, but given the number of upcoming projects here in the courthouse, I thought it would be a good opportunity to update the board and allow the board an opportunity, as always, to provide any direction to staff and input on the projects. There are a number of projects going on, and I'll list them here, and then we'll go into just a summary on each one. The first project will be, and really, well, the second project, but I'll state it first here, and that's renovation of the board chambers. That's really what drove the idea to come to your board now. But also up for consideration is the fourth floor vacancy, the future anticipated fourth floor vacancy as a result of the new courthouse. Also, two other projects that are building-wide projects. One is an HVAC, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning modernization project, and the other is restroom renovations, or are multiple restroom renovations through the building. So all the projects are included in the county's facilities capital improvement plan. And on a side note, upcoming to the board next month will be an update to that 5-year facilities capital improvement plan for facilities, parks, and the landfill. So if the board is okay with me summarizing each project and then coming back for questions at the end, a lot of the projects have some interrelatedness, and we might answer some questions as we go along. So the first project is really not our project right now, but it's the state's, and that is the new courthouse that is under construction. The anticipated completion for that is mid 2026, so about a little under 2 years away. That information is coming from the courts as well as the AOC at the state level. And we do anticipate, and they do anticipate, relocation of the fourth floor to occur not long after that. So that leaves about 1.5 to 2 years for what we're going to call space planning, or what is called space planning. So the plan of action was and still is for Public Services, Admin, and the Space Committee to lead that effort to address a variety of questions that are actually listed in the board memo just as examples, but really to identify what is the plan of action that we want to take, as well as address the domino effect of vacancies that follow that. Of note also is that the county must purchase the state's equity rights in the building. That is spelled out in the joint occupancy agreement that the county has with the state, and an appraisal is planned to that end with the state leading that effort in 2025. So we've been in touch with the AOC on that. So the next project that I'll quickly summarize is the proposed renovation of your board chambers. And at the board's direction, we have begun a modernization project for remodel here, really at a conceptual level. Really, Public Services has hired an architect. Admin has been representing the county as a stakeholder, but because this is really the board's chambers, we're here. That's what we felt it was a good opportunity to come to your board to get some input. The focus on that project, the modernization project, but specifically functionality, technology, access, acoustics, aesthetics, the list could go on and on. We do have some renderings of the two concept options that, Johanna, if you could put those up, I'd appreciate that. So we have two options, and these are at this point to provide a sense of what has been worked on. They are not the final design. In fact, we're showing two because it could be a combination of these options, or could take a different approach entirely. What I'd like to do, Johanna, if you just kind of go through each slide just to give a sense, maybe slowly just to go through to give a sense for the board of what we're looking at achieving. The two options. The first, the main difference is the front area has a slightly different layout of furniture, and the ceiling is, in this image, it shows kind of a standard T-bar ceiling with lights. And the second option, you can go ahead, Johanna. The second option shows a little bit more of a more architectural ceiling and as well as walls. So the idea is updating, refreshing. We wanted to make sure that we were meeting the board's intent and achieving your needs. When we get down to, pretty pictures are great, but when we get down to logistics, okay, what is the cost, right? That's what everyone would want to know. The average, well, I shouldn't say an average, the range of these options is between $650,000 to $750,000. That's the estimate. The funding that we have in the current budget is $250,000. So obviously there's a gap there. We have some opportunities for value engineering, primarily with the ceiling options that I mentioned, selection of building materials. You can see in these images there's a lot of wood, to put it simplistically, and that can run up the cost, especially if we're talking about millwork that's specialty, fabricated, not just something that is shipped here and we kind of pull off the shelf. So there's opportunities to value engineer that down, but we would like to move forward. We can certainly receive and hope to receive some input from your board, but the anticipation is to move forward with design. And also just for your board's awareness, admin has been looking at alternative meeting locations, and that's something that is certainly of consideration for this project, because the timing of the project, will not just be an overnight project. Obviously, this would be needing to take up this space and complete construction. So moving on to the last two projects. First one is HVAC modernization. The current system for this building is dated. It is challenging. It presents challenges. It's operational, but it certainly is challenging. Currently, the building has separate heating and cooling systems. The proposed system, and I won't go into the technical details of the current system nor the proposed, but suffice it to say that the proposed system that we have currently in design is an updated system. It will allow for more adaptability. It'll allow for both heating and cooling in separate areas of the building, so we're not reliant on heating or cooling only, and additional zones. We can heat and cool at a more refined level, space-wise, certain areas. It will also be all electric, and that's important when we start talking about our solar arrays that should go into construction in a matter of a few months. As I mentioned, the engineering design is underway. It does assume the fourth floor occupancy. That it is adaptable to that, but the idea is that the county, if we do take over the fourth floor, that we would design the system so that it includes that. Currently, the fourth floor, the courts run their own cooling system, and theirs is very dated in comparison to ours. Our cooling system is actually not it's only about 5-6 years old. The heating system, however, is dated. It is the original boiler from the 1968 courthouse construction that we have kept operating. The distribution system of the facility is original, with a lot of exceptions where we have modified it over the years for renovation projects. The estimate of the project is a little over $2 million. Funding wise, we have a little under $2 million. So we're going to move ahead with design. Hopefully we can value engineer some out, but also pull from our building reserve to ensure that we can complete that project. And the last project to touch on, really just to note it really would not be something that we would commonly come to your board for, and that is restrooms. So restroom renovations courthouse wide. It's been in the works for some time, and it's really included here not to go into detail, but rather for your board's general awareness and to ensure that the scheduling of those renovations would or could occur in conjunction with the other projects so that we're minimizing disruptions. So in closing, unless admin cares to add anything, I just, there is no specific board action requested here. But as I mentioned earlier, we certainly welcome your board's input, any direction to staff, and happy to answer any questions from here.
Thank you very much. Anything from admin?
I don't have anything further to add, but we definitely appreciate and rely on your board's direction.
All right. Thank you very much. Open it up for comments or questions. Supervisor Simon?
No, I appreciate the update, Lars. Obviously, the Space Committee is always having conversations. I think the ultimate goal, when we started some of the conversations early on as the board of trying to have a one-stop shop for building, planning. I don't know if we can fit it all in the building here, but as the space becomes available, that's something we've been talking about, getting environment, because you got to go up for planning up here, and then you got to go to environmental health for your sewer. You got all these things. So having those opportunities in the future for the county and its constituents, I think is real important. I think, everything you show up there is nice. I'm not a furniture picture guy, but the updating the hall in here would be really nice. And adding some electronics. We all walk around with these iPads. It'd be neat to see something in the desks at each of the chairs. I'm going your way, I guess, with the computer. Those are just some small things, but really using the space critically to get a one-stop shop type thing for our contractors and people building and doing projects, eventually with the use of the space, depending if it's in this building or when the armory's done, other buildings come available. So just how the space is used for the long-term success and helping our constituents. So that's it. That's all I got.
Yeah.
Supervisor Pyska?
And knowing that this building has seen a lot in 60 years, and we need to make some investments to move us along into the next 60 years, and that's hard to do all at once. So I think it's important to do it incrementally and strategically too, which sounds like that's what you're working on.
We are, and I think it's a good opportunity to complement the buildings and ground staff for keeping, not just keeping the building what it was in 1968, but updating it over time. And I'll extend that beyond buildings and grounds to IT and anyone else that has their hands on this building. We're constantly changing. Technologies change. IT probably more than any. So kudos to Shane and his team for constantly staying up with it. But on the buildings and grounds side, every time a new wall goes up, that changes the airflow. Just to simplify it, that changes the lighting scheme. And so we're talking about more than just changing a floor plan. It adjusts. It has impacts that are broader reaching than we may think. So with we have staff who have taken down the same walls that they put up. So it is. Credit goes to them for keeping it the way it is.
Yeah, I see Maria nodding, like your office. There's some offices that get really hot and some that stay really cold.
Supervisor Green?
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. I enjoyed the chamber's views, but I got to ask some questions. Again, new kid on the block. I'm almost off the board, but to me, it's almost the invitation to do space analysis for the fourth floor, to me, triggers a larger inquiry to, do we have prior board direction that this courthouse, all 50, 60 years of it, is going to be our forever home as a county administrative center? And even if there were that prior buy-in, I'd probably question that prior direction at this point because there's some things not on this improvement list that I would definitely want to ask questions. One, when you build a city on a hill, it looks great and you get great views of the lake, but it is inherently disadvantageous to people with disabilities that want to access this building. I don't know the current state of seismic safety analysis or whether we're exactly where we need to be or if that's something we're going to either be required to take a fresh look at in the near future or can anticipate that as this building continues to age, seismic safety standards will be a concern. Elevators, no elevators in here. The two we have are inadequate. To add a third elevator that does meet ADA standards could be cost prohibitive. Nonetheless, we have to make the ask. So without sounding like I'm raining on the parade of what's been brought forward, and I know the board gave direction to bring this forward, to me, the longer-term picture is the suitability of this particular building as the forever home for county admin, or even if we say it's going to be the forever home for certain county functions, I don't know, absent that bigger history lesson that this is the building to go all in on our county administrative services for the next 50 years. So that may be a separate presentation for another day and a different board. But even on the remodel here, before I go $750,000 to remodel this, it's a small room. I would probably want a bigger room, so those are just some comments and don't have to be immediately responsive to any of them, but I appreciate the update. But what I'm looking for are subjects that you haven't raised in your presentation.
Sure. Yeah, and the purpose of the presentation was limited to these four. We absolutely have many other projects going on, this building and external to it. I certainly can't answer most of your questions, to be perfectly honest. We do not have a master planning document that guides county government facility use, aside from the facilities capital improvement plan that guides the individual buildings or individual projects. But is this the vision for your board? That's a question for your board, and if there's direction to staff to investigate that, the fourth floor vacancy might be a good opportunity to look at that. We do have some time here, so as a part of that space planning effort, I would suggest and recommend that we do incorporate some visioning to that end.
Any other questions or comments? Vice Chair?
Just in agreement with, moving forward and being strategic about it, because there's some things that are looming that are going to take place, and so it's best to have a plan to move forward with it. So in the HVAC, obviously, I know we all come in here one day and it's hot and one day it's cold, and so not to mention the restrooms. They're, again, 60s were a different time. So
Got avocado green still going on in there.
I like that, but no. But I just wanted to just echo a strategic approach.
So I appreciate you bringing this, and I believe, if I remember the date correctly, it's around 2026, maybe mid-2026, that the overall courthouse should be concluded and things starting to move in or completed to move in.
That's the date that I was provided by the project.
Give or take, depending on what bumps in the road that they find.
Right.
I do agree that we need to have a greater conversation about what will happen with the fourth floor. Also, I think a budget conversation where we're now going to be paying for everything within this courthouse, because that has some impacts to us. I know that you spoke about the HVAC and the restrooms. Those are all things that not just are good things for our staff, but also for the community members that come in here, the general public. They all need to have a friendly environment to encounter and engage with. So yes, I do know that, are the pipes involved with any of the HVAC work or things like that? Because I know that needs to be looked at as well.
Depending upon which pipes you're referring to, the distribution system for the HVAC ductwork, essentially, as well as any call them drain lines, condensate lines for cooling, that would be incorporated in there. Any plumbing lines, that is not a part of this as far as that system. But the distribution system would be entirely new. What's up there right now is adequate, but it's aging, that's for sure.
And I just think it's perfect timing with the solar panels going in. What can we connect together to help reduce the overall cost of energy? I think we have a very large space committee conversation that we need to have. You're working on the armory. There's the future movement of the sheriff's department going out to the armory. That's another vacant building. What do we do with that building? I think we need to have, and I think the space committee is the perfect opportunity for that, since that's already set up for that type of conversation. But we need to know way before 2026 what is expected to be done on the fourth floor and for who and why, so that we can have things designed and ready to go. I love the design or the opportunity to make this place look better here in the chamber. However, I sure hope we use grant funding for that and not any general funds, just because I would prefer to have impact on the public, general public. This is very minute amount of time and space during the full week's worth of engagement with the public. So I would prefer using general funds for other things. So hopefully we can find other people's money to be able to pay for that rather than having to dig into our own pockets. No, everything else is good, but lots more conversations to be had. Supervisor Simon, did you have something to
No,
add?
you just mentioned something, so I know USDA community facility grants and other things like that, definitely going to be opportunities down the road, hopefully, putting that out there for Ben to start looking at, so.
If I, oh, go-
I was just going to say, speaking of other people's money, I just wanted to reiterate and ensure whoever's listening in that other people's money, which being the state, is paying for the courthouse, the other courthouse, right?
Right.
I just want to make sure that that's emphasized because there's a lot of misunderstandings that we've decided to pay for that and as a county and we have not. It's the state paying for that, so just wanted to iterate that.
yeah, and on that note, it's a good opportunity to point out the current funding, what the current agreement with the state for the courthouse is both a cost sharing and a cost paying by the county. So I can't tell you the exact numbers if it's a net zero, but they cost share with us. The courts pay for their shared portion, but we also have to pay the state quarterly, I believe. So I don't know if it's a net zero, more or less, but there's a shared cost paying that goes along there. Now it'll be nice to own the building and not have an occupant that up on the fourth floor that are judges. I'll say that. But we have done over the years a good number, and I say that just from having gone through the roofing projects on top. Right, that was a great project to have done. But when we're answering to a third party and not just your staff, it does present challenges.
Right. And I just had to look it up real quick to be correct. $83 million is what the state is putting into the new courthouse, which is what I'm thinking about as you're talking, Supervisor Green, about is this the future home? It is currently. Maybe in the future that might change, but at this moment in time, we have to use what we have. We have to finish the armory before we start thinking about what's potentially going to be the next after the courthouse. And at this moment, I think the projects you have will give longevity to the courthouse until we have a greater need. Any other comments? I'm just going to slide one in, last one. I know I had this conversation with Susan. We have a deficit in child care providers in the county, and we have families who work for the County of Lake. As we start swapping around who's who and who's where in the old sheriff's department, who's where in the fourth floor, if there's an area that opens up that's conducive to child care facility so that our employees can have access to that, I think that would be an opportunity to discuss and bring back at least.
Great. Okay. And we do have a space committee meeting coming up for a review of the facilities capital improvement plan. So that space committee meeting will now be growing a bit with our topics for sure.
Thank you. Let's go ahead and open it up for public comment. Anyone wish to speak on this item? It's very calm today. No hands in the Zoom room, nobody moving in the chamber, bringing it back, and it was just a presentation with direction. I believe you.
We're good. Okay. Thank you.
We're good. Use the space committee, I believe, was the direction for what our future vision is.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.